Let's decorate this adorable game night theme cake using edible images. Now, I do have a video showing you how I print and use my edible images, and you may want to review that if you're not familiar with the process. So I did print them and I put them on a fondant backing and I let them sit out for about 2 to 3 days so they could dry really flat. And I like to hold my images up against the cake, see where it's touching the cake, and then get a little bit of icing the same color as the tier that it's going on. And then I'm going to press it down to adhere it to the cake. Now, sometimes the icing starts to seep out a little bit. I just take a dry paintbrush and remove it. And I like to do that for all of these decorations. Now, I prefer to dry them flat. I feel like it gives it a more modern look if your edible images go flat against the cake. And that way you can dry them flat and not worry about them cracking when you put them on there. Now, when I put the name on, I always start with the center letter and then build out to the left and to the right. And I'm giving it a little bit of visual interest by putting these on an angle so they're not just straight across, which is pretty predictable. This way it looks a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to continue that for all of these images going around the cake, just getting a little bit of icing behind it wherever it's touching the cake, and then taking a dry paintbrush and removing any excess icing. Now again, since these decorations did dry flat, I don't want to put icing behind the entire thing, only where it's going to touch the cake. So that's why I put it up against the cake, see where it's touching the cake, then get a little bit of icing behind it and stick it down. Now this 10 card topper I put on a thicker piece of black fondant. That way I could screw in a skewer and 2 toothpicks underneath it so it's not going to twist and it's going to help it stand up on its own on top of the cake. I'm getting a little bit of icing underneath it, the same color as the cake that it's going on, and sliding that down. And again, any icing that is sticking out, I'm just taking a dry paintbrush and removing it. Now I want to add a little bit of color with some polka dots. So I like to do some full polka dots and some half polka dots. I do half polka dots towards the top and the bottom so it can meet the edge, and I also try not to make any of the same color touch. So these are all rainbow colors, so I'm trying to disperse the colors evenly as I put them on the cake. And then I want to take my non-toxic glue stick and get that on the outside of the cake drum and on the back of that red ribbon where it meets in the back. Just get a little bit more glue down and press it down so it sticks. And then I have my little container of curlies. I have videos on here showing you how I make them. You just wrap some fondant around a Dresden tool and let it dry, and it holds a shape. Get a little bit of piping gel underneath these and stick them down. And here is the cake decorated with edible images. How adorable is this? This is 4-inch and 6-inch tiers. It feeds about 18 to 24 people.